All right.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our third in our Learning in Action video chat series. And we are delighted to have you online today. We are using the Blab platform, and so feel free to use Twitter and hashtag SEL Challenge to share any questions or comments there. And we will also be providing a recording of this video chat that we'll be sharing, so feel free to share that with friends. My name is Kylie Bednar, and I'm a project manager at the Weikart Center for Youth Program Quality. And I am delighted to be a host today. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off and let you know that this conversation is prompted by the SEL Challenge, which was a 18-month process research study focused on identifying promising practices in social emotional learning. It was a partnership between 8 exemplary out-of-school time programs, researchers, and a national foundation, Susan Crown Foundation. And so in order to share the best practices and the promising practices that we found through the study, we produced the Preparing Youth to Thrive Field Guide. And it's chock full of resources and ideas for practitioners, as well as experiences for young people. And it covers a range of domains: emotion management, empathy, responsibility, teamwork. I'm blanking on the other ones. Help me out here. Problem solving. What's that?
Initiative.
An initiative, thank you. And today we are going to focus on emotion management. And that is the ability to be aware of and constructively handle emotions, both positive and negative. And one thing to highlight is that programs that succeed in helping young people with emotion management offer them the chance to experience a range of emotions. Could be pride, excitement, anger, anxiety, and then offer them a safe and supportive environment to explore those emotions. And so we're going to be hearing a bit more about that from one of our exemplary SEL Challenge partners. And so I'm going to introduce AHA, which stands for Attitude, Harmony, and Achievement, and they come to us from Santa Barbara, California. And we have Dr. Jennifer Freed, who is co-founder and co-director there. We have Talia Sanchez, who is one of the youth leaders from the program at AHA, and we have Ben Zimmer, who is our project manager from AHA. And AHA focuses on transforming the world by empowering teens to create peaceful and connected communities. And they serve over 6,000 families in the Santa Barbara area. And I would say that they are just a great resource in thinking about managing emotions. And before I turn it over to them, I actually want to also introduce my colleague at Spark Action, Caitlin Johnson, and she's going to be helping us facilitate the conversation today and diving in with us to explore the concept of emotion management. And so we're just going to have that conversation. And so I'm going to get us kicked off by asking Talia just to tell us a little bit about how you got involved in AHA.
So I got involved in AHA when I was a sophomore at Santa Barbara High School. I had taken my freshman seminar class, which AHA came into and talked to us. And I actually had a family friend who was one of the facilitators. So she came up to me sophomore year when AHA decided to put a club on school campus called Peace Builders into the school. And so she came to me and asked if I would like to do this. And I said, wow, I loved AHA when it came to my school. I would love to come and do this. I love the people. They would be great. Jennifer was emailing me, encouraging me to come. And so then I started the Peace Builders Club, and I've been in it for the last 3 years, and I just graduated. So I'm still hanging out with these guys. And so through that, we've done a lot of work talking about social emotional learning in the schools to create a safe and more welcoming community.
Awesome.
That's great.
Congratulations on graduation.
Thank you.
Just to quickly follow up on that, Talia, tell us in a sentence or two, what is the Peace Builders?
Okay, so Peace Builders, basically our mission statement, or what we try to do, is we want to create a more welcoming and inclusive environment on the high school campus. We've recognized that there's a lot of exclusion that happens and a lot of bullying behavior that happens throughout the high school that is learned behavior at earlier ages, but we really want to express and try and encourage students that you can express your emotions in a way that's positive and also that won't harm others. And so that's really what we want to try and do, give students these skills where they can stop bullying and where they can learn how to express their emotions and management, all of that stuff. So that's really what we're there to support.
Very cool. Kylie, go ahead.
Oh, well, and Talia, you talked a little bit about emotion management as part of Peace Builders. Could you give us an example of a time when you felt like you were able to manage your emotions through the program?
Yes, well, recently, I'm going to talk about Michigan. Recently, we traveled to Michigan. We were the keynote speakers at an after-school conference, and we ended up leaving a day early to Michigan just to give ourselves some time to travel. And good thing we did that because our first plane got delayed, and that made us miss our connecting flight in Chicago. So we ended up having to stay a night over in Chicago, and it was a 27-hour travel to finally get to Michigan, and we were all exhausted and we were hungry and we were just thrown into a whirlwind of emotions, but we really decided to use those emotions, and instead of taking it out on each other, we really focused on ourselves and just trying to make it a positive experience. And each one of us really had to use emotion management to manage our own emotions so that we could make it a safer and happy environment for everybody.
And if you think about having the space to explore your emotions, and maybe we can turn to Jennifer and Ben as well, what would you say are some ways to create that space?
One of the exercises we do in AHA Peace Builders and in AHA in general, and we just did it in our staff meeting, is something called Thorns and Roses and Name Two Emotions. So it would be as simple as my thorn today is getting a parking ticket. My rose is having a lot of laughter with colleagues. And my two emotions are frustrated and grateful. And when we repeat this ritual of thorns and roses and naming emotions, what we've learned in brain science is we name emotions to tame them. And if teenagers especially can start learning a whole emotional vocabulary, then they become much more articulate about their inner life. And when you can represent yourself well, you do much better in relationships, especially feelings are not outside of us. They're very subjective. Feelings are not facts. They're just momentary experiences.
Mm-hmm. And so in the process of naming emotions and then being able to explore those emotions, what do you think is important to be able to offer young people? I hear ritual, I hear modeling of naming emotions. Are there other things that go into creating that space?
Well, for me, speaking as a teen, I think really something that's hard when you're feeling all these emotions, and especially when you're a little younger, it's a little bit more difficult to manage your emotions because you haven't had as much experience with that. So for me, what has been really helpful about this program and about emotion management is really when you say what emotions you're feeling and when you can express that in a safe spot and you really realize that other people are feeling that way too, it makes it a lot easier for you to handle those emotions and really know that this is just a temporary emotion that I can move on from this. And it's okay to feel sad sometimes, it's okay to feel mad sometimes, and everybody feels these certain emotions sometimes. So when you really have a collective area and a safe space where you can feel those and express those, it really helps for your general feelings, and you just feel better.
And I think a certain
Go ahead.
I want to add that it's super important that teens work with adults like Ben is the director of our program, who has a running dialogue about all of his feelings in a humorous way. And so if an adult can be that vulnerable and transparent, then teens get a lot of permission to have their inner world be expressed on the outside skillfully. And I think Ben is a master of that. So I'd like him to talk about that.
Okay. It's like a Seinfeld episode, the amount of emotions and things that I bring up. But what came up for me when both of you were talking was that AHA Peace Builders and in our AHA programs, we have something called connection circles, which is an organized way of having a deeper conversation. So we have students like Talia and students from all different backgrounds. We have them learn the skills to be able to lead these small conversations. And in that, there's that safe container where teens learn to be able to express themselves. And they also can be mirrored by other people in the group and build empathy for other people's emotion management in the group. So it's all about talking about your emotions. And I think a huge part that we provide for the youth is being able to experience other people going through their emotions too. So I think that's important.
So I hear that space in terms of a ritual and in terms of modeling from the adult, being able to be authentic and reflect that. And I hear the safe space, and that ritual provides that, the circle and the rose and thorns, and being able to then know, okay, what stays in that circle stays here. So, and although we should talk about that, I think, too. And then I also hear that empathy, that it's also a chance to relate to others and know that you're not alone in the emotions that you're having. And so it helps you understand others' emotions, too. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how you structure your circle, especially in light of emotions being a difficult can bring up very difficult and painful situations, and how you as a practitioner structure that space to best facilitate the conversation.
Well, something that I've learned working with AHA is that by setting the tone that look, there are all of our AHA Peace Builders in the picture, but all of those people. So we set the space that all emotions are okay and that you shouldn't be terrified of them. And Jennifer has taught me this thing, we set this safe space where people are talking, and let's say we're in a circle right now, and Jennifer starts weeping because she's sharing something really challenging. A lot of people's instinct is to do what, Talia?
It's to go and comfort
It's
them.
like, oh God, are you okay? Wait, here, have Kleenex. And people freak out when there's emotions. But really, if we allow the person and we take a breath, and you can name it, like it really seems, Jennifer, that you're really having a lot of tears right now. And who here in this circle supports Jennifer to express herself as she needs to? And then we'd all say, we do. It creates that container.
And a huge part of what creates the space over and over again is our commitment to what we call privacy, as opposed to confidentiality. So privacy is our right to have our feelings and our stories without them being passed on by third parties. So everybody agrees that participates in AHA and AHA Peace Builders and in any circle we do, that what's shared in the group stays in the group. If I, as the person that have something going on, want to go outside the group and talk about my experience, that's my right because it's my material. But we make it very clear that everybody's material is their own to share and for no one else to report on.
That's great. That's great. So it sounds like there's such intentionality around how you structure it and how you deal with it. And I kind of want to back us up for a minute and just push a little bit on why. Why is that? Why is it important? Why is emotion management something that we all need? And why is it a piece of the very important SEL work that you do? Why this?
Very simple. We either have our emotions or they have us. If we have our emotions and we know how to manage them, then we become extremely good at relationships in our life, no matter what type of relationships, business, school, family, love relationships. If emotions have us, it means we're at the effect of our emotions and are much more likely to be destructive to ourselves and other people. So for an example, if I'm very enraged at what I'm hearing on the TV around some political discourse, and my partner comes home and I'm full of rage and I'm flooded with rage, and they look at me just the wrong way and I start raging at them, well, that turns into a bad situation for everybody. If I'm watching a political discourse and I'm aware I'm enraged right now, let's just take a moment to back off and name that rage and what's the hurt underneath and what decision can I make about what do I want to do with that rage, maybe turn it into a letter or a discussion myself. Then when my partner comes home, the first thing I can say is, I'm so happy you're home, I love you so much, and I've just had this huge flooding of rage because of this thing I saw on YouTube, and I need your support right now. Now I have a great relationship in which there's intimacy and there's rapport. But so emotions are something that we all have. And honestly, and this is as 40 years as a psychotherapist, if people don't learn how to manage their emotions, what I hear is story and story and story of ruptures and disappointments and upsets in all relationships in their lives.
Word.
Yeah. It's not just it's acknowledging and being aware of, which I think is the first difficult challenge, to actually know our emotions. And how do you, as practitioners, how do you teach that, and what does that look like? And then I'd love, Talia, for you to let us know if that's something that you were kind of aware of or saw as part of Peace Builders and AHA.
I'm gonna sneak in.
Yeah.
For the first part. So in our in-school program and in our after-school program, we explain in a fun way how our old brain is connected to our new brain, and I'm not going to get into it, but like what happens when you get overwhelmed with an emotion. And with that comes being able to identify different body clues. For example, if I know myself and that I know when I'm getting flooded, when I'm getting overwhelmed and my old brain is taking over, my lip twitches in a weird way, and you probably can't see it, but it's like some strange thing. Or some people get really sweaty. I do that too. Or your hands shake. All those different things. So when we help the youth identify what their body clues are and what the body clues are of the people close to them, they can better see their things coming. So if they know that their heart pounds so hard they can hear it, then they know that that is a time to do something else or to use some sort of coping skill to be able to calm themselves down. So body clues. The other thing is that lately we've really been focusing on using as many emotion words as possible. So we have a water cooler in one of our rooms where our program is, and we have a posted piece of paper that lists all different emotion words so that people just have it everywhere. We're able to find different words all over the place.
Yeah, so in relation to seeing this and having it be taught sort of to me is throughout Peace Builders, we have a training session before where we really get a lot of information on how we can better identify how we're feeling these emotions, and like Ben said, the cues, the body cues, and you really have to learn yourself, because sometimes you can identify when somebody else is getting angry. You can see that they're mad or frustrated by their facial expressions or whatnot, but really learning yourself and learning what your body cues are is really important. So that's definitely something that we've learned.
That awareness and just being able to identify and know about yourself. Like, I love your lip twitching, Ben. Mine is the Elvis hands. So being able to know and again, going back to that naming and then being able to say, okay, what can I do to shift that and to what's that, Jennifer?
Super important, and we teach the teens, we're about to do it today, that emotions that are unskillful only continue if we persist in negative storytelling to ourselves and others. So for example, if I get cut off driving to work today and I come in and all day long I repeat that story, I just keep resending the negative emotion to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what we challenge each other to do in emotion management is what story do you want to be telling to yourself and others? Because whatever story you're sharing is the one you're going to experience. So they're either stories of empowerment or they're stories of victimization. And really, all stories break down into either one.
Is it difficult to, or how do you coach students to stop and sort of question that narrative and question those assumptions? Because I think we get into it and then we just run with it, and it gets hard for us at any age to do that.
It's hard, and that's a huge point that you're making that we always make to the students. We're co-learners. We're co-regulating each other. We are not evolved and masters of this. We're all bumbling along, but how we train each other is we laugh a lot about it. We say, Ben and I will tease each other all the time about our stories. We both have a big story. No one works harder than us. We laugh about it. We joke about it. Because if I carry that story, I feel victimized. I feel resentful. I feel harder. But if I go, gosh, I choose to work hard and other people do too, then I'm in a much better space. So we keep sharing this information as we learn it with the teens. We help them joyfully be able to look at their own story and see if it's helping them or hurting them. And today we're going to do an exercise in our out-of-school program on just attitude and how basically the entire secret of life is the attitude you bring to something.
I love that. It sounds like the program creates such a free space for people to acknowledge, reflect, pause, be aware, and then share emotions and learn how to deal with other people's emotions. What is the advice that you give folks when they are not in the program or in the space, or after, like Talia, after you go to college? How will you personally take this with you, and how have you seen other of your peers in the program try to create these kind of dynamics and spaces elsewhere?
Well, so for me, going to college, addressing that, I'm really focused. I'm going to a very different place from where I've grown up, and I've already experienced some different opinions in the people that I've talked to. So going so far away, I know that I'm really going to need to focus on managing my emotions, especially talking about either political issues, academic issues, social issues, anything that will come up. I really need to manage my emotions and know that other people have different beliefs, and what I'm going to talk about, I can talk about level-headedly and without being flooded and getting super passionate about things, because obviously there are things that I'm very passionate about, but I just need to keep my head and my emotions level while discussing them.
So how do you do that? So how, when you have someone coming at you, Talia, who has like totally differing social views on social issues, in the moment, how do you keep yourself in check?
Well, so recently when I went back to school to visit, I met some people that I actually had a conversation with that I had differing views from, and so I had to actually practice that. And what I've used a lot is I've started a sentence with, well, in my experience, what I've experienced personally, this is how I view it. So tell me about what your experiences are, and how do you see it, and what has made you see things with your perspective, and what has made me see my views from my perspective, and really understand the experiences behind people's views and perspectives that have made them have whatever views that they do have. And so that's really how I've used that, I think.
That's cool. And kind of picking up on that, was there a time in AHA, in Peace Builders, where there was just a really difficult, challenging situation that everyone that had to address, and can you share that story?
I remember one, and maybe Talia was part of this, maybe she wasn't, but there's a fierce competition between two school sports teams in this area.
Oh.
And right in the middle of our AHA Peace Builder year, there were people in the stands, AHA Peace Builders, their parents, etc., hurling awful, awful things at the competitive team. It became this big crisis because there was this real rivalry, but it was mean, and so we had to address it at AHA Peace Builders.
Yes, I definitely remember which situation Jennifer is talking about. So yeah, that was a difficult situation because there were Peace Builders that were involved with that, so it was really trying to focus on, okay, we know that maybe in our school we're trying to create this better environment, but we really need to focus on, it's not just a situational thing or an environmental issue. You really have to apply this to everywhere you are and not just a group that you feel safe around. So maybe feeling unsafe or not comfortable with an environment makes those emotions come out in different places, whereas we were at our rival school. But I think that really focusing on spreading this around to everybody and not just focusing on the people that you feel comfortable around, but really working with people that you also don't feel comfortable with is really important.
So we've touched on a lot in terms of emotion management and experiences that both as adults and as young people that we can learn from. And so I guess with our last couple minutes, I want to know if you have any words of wisdom for other practitioners who are looking to support their young people in their after-school programming as they develop their social emotional learning skills.
I would like to invite everyone to make it a priority in all out-of-school programs to make at least a few minutes in every offering around people's emotional experiences and the climate in the room. Because there's a saying that I really believe in, which is we go slower together to get faster together. In other words, if we take the time to emotionally connect, the cohesion in the room is so much stronger that then we can tackle things that ordinarily might be even more difficult if everyone's in their own emotional bubble. Emotions are contagious. How we are affects each other. So if we're in a room full of people with all these disparate emotions and we have no clue what they are, on an unconscious level, we're all in reaction to them. So it's super important in every offering that even if it's 5 minutes, emotions check-in time. What do you want to leave at the door? At the end, what are you grateful for? What's one emotion you want to carry into your day? Any kind of ritual like that can really change the entire atmosphere because we don't connect as deeply about anything unless there's an emotional affect component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that play out in business? We have a question from Twitter that I want to tee up. I'm going to ask a quick question first and then go to that. And I'll take this moment to remind folks that you can tweet your questions to #SEL Challenge or put them in, if you're logged into Blab and watching it that way, you can put them right in the chat box on the right-hand side. But I'm just curious how you see this, Jennifer, in workplaces. And any advice or guidance for folks as they transition into adulthood and into the working culture. And then I'll follow up with a quick question.
Two things. I was just hired this week to come in and do this exact kind of training with a business because there's all these underground emotions that are sabotaging the business. So business is no different than any other atmosphere. Emotional health is key to everyone's feeling of fulfillment. But the most important thing, if you're in a business that has a toxic emotional environment, is for you to not add in, to not create more trouble by being negative and toxic yourself. So the most important skill I think people need to develop in business is what Talia was referring to that she does beautifully and Ben does and we all work at, which is self-soothing. Don't expect your environment to make you okay. If there's hard stuff going on, it's my responsibility to manage those emotions and seek appropriate support. And so I would say to the questioner, if you're having a hard time in business, one is make sure you're doing everything you can to bring that emotional vibration to a healthier place just by what you put into the workplace.
That's great. That's great. And a follow-up question from the chat bar. As students are transitioning into jobs, can you tell us a little bit about EQ or the emotional quotient versus IQ and how you're seeing that playing out in companies and how you prepare students?
Well, I've been reading a lot in the New York Times from the business section, and universally, business leaders from Yahoo to everyone is saying now they're looking for people that come in with great attitude and character. They'll teach them the rest. So in terms of EQ in the business place, it is going to be, and it is now, the hallmark of a successful employee. anyone can learn anything these days. The internet has every bit of information you'd ever want to know. But if you don't have a great contribution to your workplace in terms of your personal style, you'll probably not go very far. So EQ in work is essential now. And every leader I've talked to, billionaires, business leaders, they say that's who they want to work with. Who wants a high maintenance employee? They cost us too much.
And can you teach emotional intelligence? And does everyone have the capacity to learn it?
Absolutely. It's like a muscle. That's what we teach our youth. It's like a muscle. The more that you practice, every time that you successfully soothe yourself, you're expanding your EQ. Every time that you become more aware of an emotion, you're expanding your EQ. Every time you have an interaction with someone else that adds something to your life, you expand your EQ. It's absolutely like a muscle. Yeah.
Also, there's a difference between managing your emotions and expanding your EQ, which Ben was saying, and also just pretending, because sometimes we see that where people will just put on a happy face or something, but still have those bad emotions inside of them. So it's really important to learn emotion management so that they can really soothe themselves first instead of just covering it up, because that will harbor the bad emotions inside of them, and that is just detrimental to them in their emotions.
Yeah, great point. And it's not just bad emotions, right? We're also talking about the positive emotions. And we've spent a lot of time, because the bad ones are the ones that really can derail us and overwhelm us. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on positive emotional management and why that matters.
Well, I'm going to say a funny thing, which is I'm overly exuberant and I get too wired and then I'm obnoxious. So sometimes positive emotions are also challenging. So basically what we want is a great expression of ourselves that's always mindful of our impact on others. So emotions are not in a vacuum. We all live together on this planet. So positive and skillful emotions can be overwhelming as much as unskillful emotions. It's the how we express them. And as Talia brilliantly said, the worst thing we can do is try to keep a cap on them, because then it's like the Jack in the Box, boom! And that's not good for anybody. So we want to always end, and we'll end, this seminar today on saying we always end our groups in gratitude, because when you're grateful, you're always in the best of your emotional state.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how do you guys stay grateful? Any tips on, as we end and we leave people with this great advice? How do you stay grateful? What do you ask yourself?
Well, to me, it's a muscle, as Ben was saying, to constantly scan for what's good and great about everything and everyone I know. And so, for example, Talia walks in the room today, and all I can think is I'm so grateful to be around one of the most radiant, smart women I've ever met. Every time Ben comes to work, every one of us feels like we are so lucky to be around one of the most astonishingly emotionally vulnerable and strong men we know. I mean, it's just an automatic, once you've set an atmosphere of this, I look at Kylie every time, and after we get off the phone or anything, and I think, how are we the most lucky people in the world to work with Kylie, the most adorable human being ever? And we love your haircut, Caitlin.
Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, any closing words to send us out? I want to give you guys a chance to say the final words, and then Kylie, I'll have you send us off. This has been fantastic and very.
I think there was a question about this before, but just how to make these programs really work with the youth. Something that I've noticed as a youth that these guys do amazingly well, that I cannot tell you has made such a different impact in my life over these past 4 years, is that they really treat us with respect, which is something that's really hard to find. Now with youth, there's a lot of ageism, as we like to call it. So there's a lot of, overshadowing people's thoughts and really not taking them into account as valuable as an adult. And so really, every time that I travel with them, every time I do anything, sometimes it's even more fun than traveling with friends, because I'm on the same level as them and I'm treated like an adult. I'm treated like a respected individual, and that's really something that's really important. So for everybody that's watching, that's working with their programs, really students and youth really value that. They really value being heard and being able to know that their voice is important, because for us, that's the way that you will really get the most truth out of a student. Because if somebody doesn't feel like they're valued or they're able to say what they can, then they're not going to say what's on their heart. They're not going to say what they really think. And that's really important to moving us forward in society.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would say to close is that in order to be able to do this work, or to work with anyone in the world, self-care is the most important thing, to be able to take care of yourself and take care of how you live your life so that you can show up in the best way possible at work or with youth or wherever you are.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. And in the spirit of gratitude, as we close today out, I want to, first of all, thank Jennifer, Talia, and Ben for your wisdom and insight and your presence. So it's just a delight, as always, to hear from you and work with you. So thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom today. And Caitlin, thank you for your interviewing and your Spark action skills. It's always a pleasure to bring us all together to be able to have these conversations. And I want to thank Gina behind the scenes. She was doing the slideshow. So thank you to Gina for her great work on the visuals. And I also want to thank Susan Crown Exchange, our funder, for this, who brought the SEL Challenge to life. And so we are just delighted to be able to provide these stories through our practitioners and our young people who have been involved. So please go to selpractices.org for more resources on emotion management, and continue to use hashtag SEL Challenge as you explore these opportunities. And if you have stories about how you are putting emotion management into your program, we'd love to hear them. So shoot me an email at kylie@cypq.org. All right, everyone, thank you so much. And again, with gratitude. All right, we'll take care and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for a glimpse inside this powerful program.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.